Economic Forum in Davos. Stephen Carroll is there in the Swiss Alps.
Story on the agenda today here in Davos is in fact climate change, quite a different mood from previous days of discussions. There's an event taking place later today about climate change in growth and development. That's going to be attended by Ban Ki-moon, Al Gore, the former US president, and of course climate change campaigner, and Bill Gates, among others. John Kerry is also expected to speak here later. The US Secretary of State arrived here from Geneva from those talks on the Syrian crisis yesterday. And also the British Prime Minister David Cameron is due to speak later. He's going to be focusing on the idea of bringing offshore outsourced companies back to the United Kingdom this year in an effort to maintain jobs. But of course, in Davos, what's on the agenda isn't always the main event. Most of the business here is done outside of those meeting rooms and done between business people. Let's speak now to Isabelle Allen from KPMG, the Global Head of Markets. Isabelle, thank you for joining us this morning on France 24. You were here last year, you're here again this year. People are describing this as a post-crisis summit. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And what a difference a year has made in Davos. Last year, the atmosphere was quite somber. If you remember, the threat of the collapse of the euro hadn't been dismissed yet. The signs of economic recovery were quite sparse. And the mood of the business community was not quite what it is this year. Definitely from the conversations with the CEOs that we've had, you really feel that the business community is picking up signs that a number of things are turning for the better. Sure, not everything has been solved, but the conversations we're having with our clients certainly echo that. CEOs are talking again about investment, they're talking about expansion in emerging markets, and they're talking about acquisitions.
So where you talk about emerging markets, where you work with some of the world's biggest companies, where are they expecting to see their growth in 2014?
So, you know, we've been talking about the emerging markets, and now we're talking about the BRICS, and then we're talking about the mints, and then the next 11. And certainly all our clients are at different stages of maturity in their expansion program. But a lot of interest in the mints for us, in particular Indonesia, for example.
Okay. And what about here in Europe? Still many fears about the European economy. France in particular, there are many concerns about business sentiment and getting business back on track there. What are your clients telling you about the environment?
So Europe is very much a picture of different things happening. If you've picked up the news about the UK and some very positive signs coming from that economy, our clients it's difficult to talk about Europe as one block at the minute because you've got very different performance by different countries. If you ask our clients about France at the minute, yes, it's an economy which is showing signs of difficulties, and for our clients, an economy where business can be difficult at this minute.
Okay, and the thing about Davos is, you know, as I was saying, those decisions don't get made in the big meeting rooms. What does Davos mean to you when you come here, you're dealing with some of those big companies?
What I love about Davos is one of the very few places where you can have the business community, governments and civil society, the three of them together talking about the same topics. If I take the three key takeaways for me this year, when you talk about youth unemployment, when you talk about the disruptive changes that are coming through from the power of innovation and technology and new generations coming to work with different aspirations, and gender parity, when you have those three people at the table, you get to a better conversation. And certainly I've observed that in all the sessions I've attended today.
I'd like to pick up on that point about gender parity. The number of female participants in Davos is down to just 15% this year, down again. Does that reflect on the discussions, do you think?
Well, it's quite interesting because you're right. The representation of women is less this year than last year. It's funny because the topic, though, have become more mainstream. In the past, the gender diversity agenda has been more on the fringe. It was very much core and centre of a lot of discussions this year.
Okay, that's very interesting. Isabelle Allen for KPMG, thank you for joining us on France 24. Just time for a quick look at the markets before we go. And in Asia, a fairly mixed picture, in fact, across the indices. The Nikkei in Japan down by more than 2%, this after further fluctuations in the value of their currency. The yen also over in South Korea. The Kospi is down by 0.4%, these after disappointing results from the electronics giant Samsung. And that's all from Davos for now. We'll have plenty more throughout the morning, of course. Until then, it's back to you, Chris.
Thanks very much, Stephen. It's time to bring in Florence Vlemino now, who's been looking through the